we have reached peak car. We're not in a
Yeah.
situation where we're looking for peak car. We have reached it.
Today on That Car Show, Sasha Selipanov. Sasha, of course, is the automotive designer behind many of your favorite modern supercars and hypercars, including the excellent Lamborghini Huracan, the innovative Koenigsegg Gemera, and of course, the epic Bugatti Chiron. We talk about what makes a car great, why the Germans are sometimes scared of their own shadow, why Freeman Thomas's original Audi TT was so good, and why the company's new Concept C is a return to form. Of course, we also go deep on Sasha's current project, his Nilu 27 hypercar, and why I think it's the most exciting hypercar in a long time. Here's a hint: it's got a V12 that goes to 11 and a gated manual transmission. This is a good one, and Sasha's story of growing up in the Soviet Republic to creating some of the most iconic enthusiast cars of our day is a great one. It's also a reminder to get off your ass and do something with your life. Stay tuned, tell your friends, and make sure you follow That Car Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. That Car Show is brought to you by Sheffield Watches. Sheffield is the storied watchmaking brand that was revived a couple of years back by our good friend Jay Turkbus, and it's seen wild success in both the car and watch enthusiast communities. Sheffield offers a wide selection of watches, many inspired by the iconic designs of its 1960s dive models, most notably the one that Jay's parents gave him in 1970, which ignited his lifelong passion for watches. Sheffield watches are high quality, reasonably priced, and a great value. Sheffield has truly become the car guy and car gal's watch of choice. Order your Sheffield watch at sheffieldwatches.com. Give them a follow on the gram at Sheffield_allsport_watches and tell them That Car Show sent you. The first time I saw Sasha Selipanov's Nilu 27 hypercar, I was blown away. I knew immediately that it was something special. It was familiar, but it was also unlike anything I'd seen before. It was kind of like every car crush I'd ever had all rolled up into one, but it wasn't derivative, it wasn't overwrought, and it wasn't an homage. It was a truly original modern hypercar, one pure form, and one that really connected with me emotionally. Which makes sense because the car's creator, Sasha, has one hell of a resume. Born in Tbilisi, Georgia, Sasha moved to California at the age of 17. And after attending Art Center College of Design, Sasha was hired by the Volkswagen Group, where he was part of the Lamborghini Huracan team and designed the exterior of the incredible Bugatti Chiron. He'd later go on to Genesis before becoming head of design at Koenigsegg, where he was responsible for both the Gemera and the CC 850. But back to the Nilu, because its specs are truly impressive. A hot V12 engine that makes 1,000 horsepower, over 1,000 horsepower at 11,000 RPM, which is incredible. A top speed of 250 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, of course. And it's got a gated manual. It's a driver's car, but it's also, as Sasha puts it, here to burn your village. So it's That Car Show, and today it's just me. Dan and Lindsay are off doing amazing things, but I'm doing something even better. I'm here with Sasha himself. So Sasha, you've been on Top Gear, the smoking tire, motor trend, list goes on. It's great to have you join us here on That Car Show. Welcome.
It's my pleasure, Ryan. Thank you very much for this incredibly kind intro. I'm blushing already.
Well, hopefully I got all the facts correct, but it's great to have you. I'm a big fan of your work. And so what is the Sasha story? Where did this need to create, this drive to create come from?
No, I think most of the kids are kind of born with it, but the society, the warm embrace of the parenting home and experiences in school kind of stifle the creativity and kill the dreams a little bit for most kids. But in my case, I was very fortunate. I had the environment, and speaking of my family right now, that really nurtured that obsession of mine and made sure that a lot of compromises, sacrifices, and effort was invested into supporting me on that journey. So I think I was just lucky like that.
Yeah, you were one of those kids, I'm sure, that had the posters, on the wall and all the rest. Yeah, what was on your wall as a kid? What were you drawn to?
I think that part of my kind of part of my motivation right now, and part of the intensity that I feel when it comes to sports cars, really takes roots in how, in a way, depraved my childhood was. Because growing up in final death throes of Soviet Union in Georgia. The best car you could see out in the streets was a Lada Niva, which is actually a really cool car, but but that was the best. Like you would never see
Yeah, they
an
are. Yeah.
import. You would never see
Yeah.
you would never see a sports car. Those things only existed in rare kind of magazine clippings that I could find somewhere. And the fact that I never was exposed to those cars, although I dreamed of them daily, but I never had the opportunity to actually like hold on to them in any meaningful way. That
Yeah.
kind of that hunger and that fascination is what really fueled me throughout my life. I'm still weak in my knees when I see something
Yeah.
exciting on the road and
Yeah.
jump out of my car and run after it like a total adolescent moron. But
I love that
yeah.
you still do that. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I most recently was driving somewhere in Hollywood and there was an F40 parked facing the wrong way on the road. So I'm driving, seeing all those back ends, and all of a sudden I see the front end of an F40. I just like threw the car like to the first, like I don't know, not even a parking spot, just fire hydrant, and then ran out and started taking pictures and spent I don't know half the afternoon just sitting there on the curb
Really?
looking at the car. You can't help it. It's
Yeah.
an obsession from early days. And F40 was on the
Yeah,
bedroom wall,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
So.
It's one of the greats, truly, isn't it? It's yeah. I still get a little weak in the knees whenever I see one too.
Yeah.
You go to Car Week and you see them everywhere, and it's just surreal, right? It's just surreal.
At that point in time, it gets like this experience of like if you have all these I don't know, craft beers, by the time you're on your fifth one, you really can't tell like if it's like the right. But that's the Car Week experience in a nutshell. It's so
I love that.
oversaturating for my senses. Yeah, can't
I
can't
love
quite
that
handle it.
analogy. Yeah. So Tbilisi, like a beautiful part of the world, but obviously it was a
Sure.
real culture shift moving to a city like Los Angeles. Huh? At 17, so you had spent your formative years in this former Russian Republic, and now you're in Los Angeles, and I mean, your head must have just exploded, right, with everything you saw and experienced.
Not quite, I would say, because first of all, from Tbilisi, my family moved to Moscow when I was
Okay.
9 years old. So I spent between my 9-year-old and my 17-year-old self was Moscow, and Moscow is a really bustling metropolis with more intensity, more New York than LA. If I
Okay.
had to draw a parallel there,
Sure.
so for me coming to LA from Moscow. Definitely exciting. Car culture is amazing. Climate was wonderful. Plenty of experiences that were kind of impressive. But I was missing a little bit of the intensity of the big city in a New York kind of way. So that was a culture shock. Obviously, also because it was my first time having to speak English from morning till evening. Never having the opportunity to switch back to the comfort of my native language. And yeah, I still remember it. It was a massive culture shock, but not because of the size of the city. That
Yeah.
wasn't
Okay.
it.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I've bumped into you a couple of times. I think the first time last year at the LA Auto Show, where your car was front and center. First time I saw the car in the flesh, and was just really, really floored by it. But I bumped into you again recently at Car Week at the Haggerty House, I guess is what they
That's right.
call it. And you gave this really insightful presentation into your design philosophy. And I guess what I really appreciated about it was your complete lack of pretense. Like in a week of lots of smoke and mirrors, sometimes literally, you really cut to the chase, and you almost made it sound like the secret to car design is actually very simple.
I think it is. I don't know. I do believe that we overthink things too much sometimes, and the first impulse is more often right than we give it credit for. So yeah, it's overcomplicated. It's driven by too many cooks in the same kitchen quite often. There's too many interests at play. The investments are so large, nowadays to bring a mainstream production car to the road is, maybe even north of $1 billion. So when the investment is that high for a road car program, you inevitably have a whole bunch of different stakeholders in the game, and very often the designer is kind of the receiving point of all the different conflicting feedbacks. So then it's up to you, and it's on your shoulders to make sense of it somehow. And again, very often the designer is relatively narrow-minded, so they only have, they just want to focus on making something quote unquote pretty, and they don't fully embrace the complexity of the process. So it is both simpler and more difficult. I don't know how else to summarize it.
Yeah.
It requires a certain amount of intelligence, and if you have that intelligence, then hopefully it's a good place to start.
You broke it down into some components, and one of them was seat shape and seat design, which I thought was really interesting, right? And I think, as you said it, most car seats kind of look the same, right? But the body's not built like that. Plus, you need to sort of lower the roof of the car, the center of gravity, and all that. Can you go into that a little bit about how important seat design is? Because the human, like our body, really becomes part of the unit, the functional unit, right? Once you're in the car.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Obviously, spent a long time thinking about it, and generally speaking, when you're working with established car companies and OEMs, you have ergonomic sections that are being given to you, so you can't actually be creative when it comes to changing some of the ergonomic requirements that the company has. Like VW has very strict curves that are already predefined for human comfort and for human safety. So if you deviate from those curves, you'll be approached by the engineering team and they'll tell you, yeah, your design isn't compliant. Please make sure you respect these tried and tested, decades old, matured through generations comfort sections. We won't accept any deviation. And it was actually at Koenigsegg the first time I realized this stuff is up for grabs. Christian
Yeah.
had some wonderful ideas when it came to human ergonomics, and I realized, wow, I mean, he's so creative when it comes to these topics that were taboo in my previous life. And I kind of took that on as a challenge for myself to also think outside these, regulated boxes and be creative. Obviously, safety is, top concern. So I will never do anything that compromises that. But when it comes to some of those comfort sections, they are built along straight lines. Like the seat back, for example, in most passenger cars is a straight line, and that's not what our spine looks like. So creating a shape that accommodates the spine more is both more comfortable and eventually lowers the head a tiny bit, and you are packaging a bit tighter around the head, and you're getting, in my mind, a sports car anyway should feel a little bit like a tightly fitted glove. You
Right.
kind of want that tailor-made feel in that interior, and the areas that you come into contact with your body, let's say, with your elbows, with your knees, with your hands, obviously, they should be designed as literal offsets of your body parts, so that you have that cocooning effect and the feeling of purpose-built interior. Other parts that are more about making inputs into the vehicle, toggle switches, shifter, all those other things, they need to provide both the haptic and the touch feedback to you. So you really need that click back. You really need that cold touch to understand that your hands aren't on the leather anymore. They are on something that
Ah,
controls mechanical function of the car. So I want that cold touch to come back to you at that point. There's a lot of thinking that goes into designing an interior, very far away from just drawing lines and coming up
sure,
with cool themes.
sure,
That's not it.
sure.
You really have to think through the user, through the driver's perspective. What is the experience that they're about to have, both from the external point of view, approaching the car, getting into the car, being in front of the wheel for the first time, your first 8 seconds,
Mm.
as Etienne, who is my wonderful friend and interior designer, says, first 8 seconds are the clear kind of yay or nay decision
Mm.
point for the potential buyer. But then, how does this thing live with you throughout your life? Are you going to be looking to sell it in 6 months because it is a pain and you're not comfortable with the experience, or is every new opportunity to drive the car, making you fall deeper in love with it? And
Mm.
it really is gratifying on all those levels, both the first wow factor as well as, the decision making point, but then the life with the product and learning something new. It's like every relationship. You really need to create those experiences and layer them and sometimes even hide them so they come through, later down the road. And
Yeah,
yeah, seat back is part of it. So again,
yeah,
deviated
yeah,
now, but yeah.
yeah. Well, you mentioned the tactile, and I don't think there's a screen in your car, is there?
No, well, we have one screen, which is the rear view mirror, the central mirror,
Ah,
just
okay,
in the cabin here, because the firewall there's no transparency there,
okay,
and
okay.
the engine bay has this massive top-facing exhaust, so you wouldn't see anything out the back anyway. So we do have one screen, and it's the only screen that I'm personally comfortable with in a
Mm.
super sports car. The last thing you want to do is, while you're driving, have to kind of look away and fiddle with something on the
Sure,
screen. So
sure.
that mirror is all you get.
Okay, interesting, interesting. And you mentioned Etienne Salome as his name, and
That's
I
right.
think you worked
Yes.
with him on the Chiron, yeah?
Yeah, he was the interior head and I was the exterior head, so we were sharing that responsibility. And later on, he became one of my best friends, but also joined me on a bunch of other adventures, including periodic work at Koenigsegg while I was heading up design there. Etienne was one of the
Okay.
contributors, and then with Nilu, the interior was again us sort of working together and him driving that very much. But I also had a strong hand in it, obviously being my brand.
Sure, sure. One of the things on the interior I think that I've seen is the wheel is pretty small, right? So the dials, right, are offset, right, to the left and right and things like that. I mean, everything's considered, and just appreciate that. Something else I really appreciate is wheel design. And I know when I saw you at the Haggerty House, there was a question and answer session, and there were only a handful of us journalist types, and so the pressure was kind of on to ask a good question. And I asked about wheel design because on the Nilu, it's a simple design. It obviously works very well. It's beautiful, but it's not overwrought, right? Again, it looks the way it does because I think you said it was how a wheel looks when you make it as strong and as light as possible, and that's the result you get. Is that right? Like, kind of capture that, or
In a nutshell, you definitely did. So wheels are incredibly important for vehicle performance. They're obviously unsprung weight. They also generate quite a lot of rotational energy. So they're in a way like a gyroscope. So a wheel that is spinning at I don't know, 200 or 300 or 400 kilometers per hour is an incredible amount of energy stored in that rotation. So the more mass that wheel has, the more complicated it is for the suspension to do its job. The more complicated it is to get good steering feel, because obviously it doesn't want to change direction. It continues spinning in the plane of rotation and doesn't want to be changed. So lightweight is crucial for wheels. That is really part of, not only weight saving in terms of just, numbers game, but also the outright driving experience benefits a lot from your wheels being lighter. So you can run algorithms these days that generate wheels with, if you input the parameters of the material that you'll be using, if it's a composite or if it's a forged, or the methods of production, and you get shapes that are lightest for that input, for that material, for that vehicle weight, for that driving kind of scenario. You get designs out of predictive software. So technically you should be just taking those, producing them, and your job's done.
Sure.
But of course you still, as a designer, there is an aesthetic value to it. And I do believe that form following function delivers most of that value, but you still should do your homework a little bit, making things neat. And a classic 5-spoke is one of the simplest and most efficient shapes when it comes to distributing the load paths and providing the right rigidity and strength and lightweight. So starting with a 5-spoke made sense, and then I wanted to keep the face of it as clean as possible so you don't actually see the complications. And this is also part of the way I like to tell stories. I don't like when things are all at once, same in intensity, just thrown at you, right? I want to create a step ladder where you appreciate the design, thinking, oh, it's a simple 5-spoke wheel. Probably seen something like that before, but you get close and you're like, oh, but not quite. And then you look at it from closer up, and you see that, oh, it's all cross drilled, and there's so much weight saving going on, and there's all these crazy angles that the drilling is happening from the CNC machining. So they must have come up with intricate new ways of accessing those angles so the more you know and the closer you get, the more you appreciate what you see in front of you, while the first read remains instantaneous. As I call it, the Neanderthals punch to the gut. You need to deliver that bang, and you can't deliver the bang with a lot of noise. The bang needs to be intentional.
You're the first car designer I've spoken with that really almost talks about a car with a story arc, right, or is having a story arc, which I appreciate. And speaking of wheels, it must kill you to see like Cadillacs with these chrome 24-inch wheels, just knowing like how much those things are hurting the performance of the car, right?
But I mean, like to every vehicle, there's different set of guiding principles. For a vehicle that is primarily just a fashion symbol or something that is just a lifestyle choice, fine. But we're talking about super sports cars, so there's still that kind of. You need to deliver on the performance side as much as you do on the aesthetics. So I don't want to necessarily kill off the entire car culture that is, not necessarily following function per se. There's so much exciting stuff on the road, and I really just appreciate stuff that makes me stop and think a little bit, and it could be both really pretty and quite ugly, but I love the kind of the wow factor that I kind of experience when I see something that breaks the mold a little bit.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Genesis, I know you were with Genesis for a while, and I think Genesis has some of the best wheels in the game. Maybe, not all performance wheels necessarily, but really doing some different stuff with fractals and all this kind of thing. Did you have anything to do with that while you were there?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So maybe you remember Genesis Essentia, the concept?
Yes, absolutely.
So that had a pretty wild wheel, and that car was done in my studio. I was responsible for that show car.
Fantastic.
And the wheel I still remember because our boss at the time was constantly pushing us to come up with something even more expressive for the wheels. And I was like, guys, come on, we gotta like, this is it, let's just make sure that we produce something that is wild.
Yeah.
I still really wanted the first read because I'm a fan of first read. I think first read is very important, but the intricacy was taken to really the next level with that essential wheels. Was nuts. Never done a more complicated wheel in my life.
Yeah.
And then we did the Mint as well, which was the follow-up show car to the Essentia, and that also had a crazy wheel. And I still remember sitting in Alias and actually building up that wheel myself. That was one of the personal contributions. I was like, okay, I'll do the wheel.
Yeah, that's awesome. A detailer's nightmare, but a great-looking wheel, right? That's the best.
Three or 4 days of work where normally I spent like, I don't know, half an hour on the wheel, but this was a heavy one.
Wow. And you mentioned too that you're not a clay model guy, right? You are a computer guy. I don't know, maybe that's just a generational thing or whatever, but it does affect the output, doesn't it?
I don't think so.
No?
I think that the key kind of guiding parameter that I have for my own output and for my teams is you shouldn't be able to tell how it was built. Like when someone sees it, like an experienced clay guy comes up and says, how did you guys do this? They should fully believe that it was done using their preferred method, their dream approach. They should not be able to tell how it was done. Because I don't think that the final product should reflect the tools that were used. The tools should be used to create a perfect product, and you should find tools that do it for you, but the product should not necessarily headline with the approach that was taken. That somehow devalues it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a 911 rear fender, a clay modeler will always tell you that's only possible in clay. I can build that in maybe 45 minutes. There's really no problem with that rear fender. It's 2 patches, and it's pretty easy to control that highlight. It is a really beautifully mathematically controllable surface that unfortunately most alias modelers or most CAD modelers build it not the right way, and then it becomes a very tedious piece of work, and then the clay guys take advantage because they can do it with their hands and with their kind of magic. But if you understand the underlying math behind it, it's actually a very simple shape.
Yeah, interesting. So what are some of your pet peeves when you see other cars that you weren't involved with, right? Whether it's, I don't know, BMW or Tesla or, what are these? There's some funky stuff going on, right? So what are some of your pet peeves? How much of this is laziness? How much of this is just trying to do something different?
So my main problem with the entire industry as a whole is this complete disconnect between what the object is supposed to do and what it looks like. So the kind of mental game I play with myself sometimes is close your eyes, come up to a car, put your hand on any part of that car, open your eyes and ask yourself, what's this for? And chances are, in a large percentage, there is no purpose. It is just there to create visual fascination, quote unquote, but it doesn't fascinate me. I just look at it and think why is this thing just stuck on the car? That has to do with fake exhaust lamps, fake air intakes, fake, I don't know, matte black moldings or shiny pieces, or sometimes they're even placed on the car in a way that defies function, where you think, well, yeah, I would appreciate a non-scratch surface on the front bumper, but where you placed it in an undercut where a body color panel is overshadowing it, it's obviously not going to prevent my bumper from getting scratched. So there is this kind of substitution of meaning, you know what I mean? Where instead of honesty in design, it's anything but honesty in design. It's a complete outright lie. So that's what I don't appreciate. But I'm not ready to pin that on the designers' shoulders and say, yeah, it's because those guys, they don't know how to do their job. No, it's because of how this industry works. Quick refresh cycles, constant need to bring something fresh to the market. 2-year-old car is too old now. We need a refresh, but we can't invest money into it, so we can't actually just come up with a brand new design. Let's take it as it is and just stick something on top of it. Let's make sure that we differentiate with low-hanging fruit, quote unquote. Just put something on there that doesn't cost us that much money. So you're being forced as a designer into the territory that none of us graduated with dreams of doing these kinds of Christmas tree ornamentations. We all graduated with dreams of, oh, I'll be like Giorgetto Giugiaro someday, or I'll be like Marcello Gandini someday. But they work in a completely different climate. Right now, with the pressure that the corporate world has upon the design department, you're hard pressed, to do your job and stay dignified.
Yeah. And what's your sort of take on, Jaguar obviously got so much grief earlier this year with it wasn't just a car redesign, it was really a brand overhaul, right? And I think a lot of us struggled with that because, Jaguar is a legacy brand, right? There's an expectation for Jaguar. Here you are, clean slate, right? How is that different designing for a legacy brand versus a brand new entity like Nilu or even Koenigsegg, relatively new?
Well, just a couple of words on the Jag. First of all, I would never speak negatively of someone who took chances and showed bravery. So from that point of view, hats off. I think it's wonderful that they did. I think the brand has been in a crisis mode for not one, not two,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know, 4 decades at this point in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
They've really not had a chance to stand firm on their feet. And, the Ford platforms were horrendous and over bloated, kind of fatty designs with tiny little wheels pulled all the way in. These cars, they didn't look good. So it's not like the designers came in, took this beautiful,
Yeah.
refined jewel of a brand and screwed it up. That's not what
Yes.
happened. The
Great
brand
point.
was struggling, so it needed reinvention.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, do I think that I would have gone that particular route with Jaguar if I was once given a chance? Probably not, but I really appreciate that they did
Yeah.
and that they stuck to it and that they came out strong. And there are many areas on that car that show incredible design quality and sensitivity. That interior is beautiful. Some of the detail treatment is beautiful. Overall proportions, squint your eyes, look at it. It's a beast. Yeah, in my mind, Jags should be a bit more feline with a little bit more kind of flow and sculpture and a little bit more general beauty to them, right? Not just
Yeah.
slab-sided, monstrous kind of brutalist designs. But again, hats off. They tried something different and they tried to rescue an otherwise failing project. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
No,
where I stand on
interesting.
that.
I think the Jaguar design language had been taken as far as it could go, right? And I think Aston was in that same position, right, a few years ago, and they had to do something different.
I do think that you kind of start with a strong manifesto with like a declaration of intent and a message that is very clear. And that message is verbal, but there's also usually a set of images that accompany it, like you start off kind of programming the brand for a new era. And then as you iterate, as you go, first product is always the celebration of that new vision. And then you're pressed by, the market demand and the fans and the media, how do you kind of continue that development? And the first few products are usually a good continuation of that original manifesto. And then somehow, one way or another, maybe some people leave, some new people come in, it gets diluted. So there's always a kind of a strong intent at the beginning that somehow slowly glides down to a
Yeah.
point where
Yeah.
a new kick is necessary.
Yeah.
And that's also why I think that perhaps rotating chief designers and rotating CEOs and is not such a bad thing. I don't know,
Yeah.
like after 15 years in a brand, if I would personally have any more new ground to break. I already kind of digested the brand's meaning. I contributed my vision. I did a generation of cars, 2 generations of cars, 3 generations of cars. Like, how much more can you do? I think it's time for fresh blood.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess supercars are one thing, hypercars are one thing. It's probably even that much more challenging, to your point, to design like an everyday car, right? So are there any daily drivers out there that you think really get it right, past cars, current cars?
I'm not generally like a super big fan of current cars. Like if I think
Okay.
of some things that I like, they always are strangely from the past,
Yeah.
and like I remember, one of the formative experiences of like a regular car, seeing something new
Yeah.
as a regular car, was the original TT when that came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Golf Mark IV, which was the kind of same generation as that TT,
Yes.
was the first car with clear headlights with
Yes.
like no, not foggy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was so clean and so
Yeah.
pure, and the shut lines, the way they were laid out. And that was the time when I was already not super little. I was maybe in my early teens, but very formative to me as a designer of just how neat and how organized and how precise,
Yeah.
their shapes were. And I really kind of still to this day hold those cars at a very high level of respect. Today, when I see stuff, I just want to clean it up. That's my only kind of ambition.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, this is almost perfect, but just remove all this
Yeah.
design, like remove all that stuff. Like I don't
Yeah.
need it, because
Yeah.
I'm pretty like cynical in the respect. No, I'm not sure that's the right word. When I get in the car in the morning and I'm not necessarily in the mood for visual bonanza, I just want stuff that doesn't piss me off. Like I want stuff that I get in and it's just there, perfectly resolved. Like, sorry for the example that is overused, but like the freaking iPhone. I don't need stuff that screams at me on Monday morning. It says like, check me out. I got this feature, I got that feature, and I got this, like, my shifter looks like a leaf and it's got this little chrome trim. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Give me something that I can actually grab and
Yeah.
does its job and looks pure and simple and yeah. That's what I like.
It's funny you mentioned that Volkswagen, because I remember the first time I saw one on the street. I remember where I was. I remember what the car, looked like, and like it was a Countach or something. Like the first time I saw a Lamborghini, it had that sort of impact on me. So I'm glad to hear that I'm in good company. And of course, the TT you mentioned is interesting because the new TT concept was just released today.
Right.
And it shades of, I think it was the Audi Avis car, the concept car of my youth, I guess. So thoughts on that, because it's getting a lot of press and people seem to really love it, especially the back end.
I'm a big Audi fan, and as you know, I spent 12 years of my life in Volkswagen Group. A big chunk of that I was at Audi as well, working on some production programs there. So, big fan of Audi. I struggled with the management there for many years because
Okay.
I thought that they didn't fully embrace Audi DNA. For me, Audi DNA is much more Germanic, much more Bauhaus, much more kind of Teutonic, strict, fundamental, almost brutalist. There is
Yeah.
something about Audi that is, German to the core in this no nonsense kind of way.
Yeah.
And when they were over styling it and putting a lot of styling lines and putting undercuts and overcuts and chrome bits and this and that, and again going in the Christmas tree direction with the cars,
Yeah.
I personally felt disconnected. I felt like that Audi has such a wealth of DNA behind it. Come on, guys, let's
Yeah.
just do something
Yeah.
more pure. And my proposals were always on that more pure direction. And then eventually they weren't getting into production because they were seen as just not right for the brand. In fact, I was being offended by being told you're not on brand, and I'm thinking, no, you are not on brand.
Yeah,
None
yeah.
of you are on brand.
Just wanna
You
shake
don't
'em.
get the brand.
Yeah,
I need to
yeah.
shake you guys. We're not doing rebadged BMWs or rebadged
Yes.
Mercedeses here.
Yes.
This should be different. There is a
Yes.
quality of design that needs to be respected, and that Avus concept you mentioned was obviously a big inspiration. J. May's early '90s, wonderful car. There was also the Audi Sport Quattro Coupe concept back then, also with this round roof orange car, Spider and Coupe. They were wonderful. Then the TT came. Then the Steppenwolf was incredible as well with.
Yeah.
Raphael Pretechet as a designer, and there was a whole plethora of cars that, for me, set the standard for what Audi design should be.
Yeah.
And then there were a lot of newer cars already under Walter de Silva, and then Stefan Zilaf, and then Wolfgang Egger, and then Mark Lichte. Incredibly competent designers, but some of that original design manifesto got watered down. And remember, I just said a minute ago how like you start high and then you kind of and then you need to restart. Well, maybe this is what's happening now. Maybe bringing Massimo on board, they are really kind of returning back to this more Bauhaus Germanic roots. From that perspective, I love what they did, and I'm really happy to see it.
Yeah, that design language works so well in a way that it wouldn't, I think, with Jaguar or something else. It just looks right. It just looks right. It's hard to put your finger on, but that explanation of the history and all that, that explains it, I think. And was it Freeman Thomas who did the original TT?
Freeman is awesome. Yeah, he did the original TT. He worked on the original New Beetle as well.
That's right.
Remember that round roof one. And yeah, to this day, he's an inspiration. Great designer.
Was he a teacher of yours at Art Center?
No, he didn't teach, but he's prominent, so he always stopped by and gave his opinion
Okay.
here and there. And sometimes I go out to see him and run whatever I'm doing by him just to get like some
That's
friendly
awesome.
advice.
He's a hell of a nice guy, too. I've bumped into him a couple times at the Peterson Museum and other places, and he's always got time to say hello and talk with you.
But I have to say, he on a philosophical level is very much the core of, in my mind, of Audi DNA. Like you would go to him, to Derek Jenkins as well, another very prominent designer I respect a lot, for this Audi DNA. It was an interesting thing. I need to mention this. The Germans themselves struggled to understand the quintessential part of Audi DNA. You had to be a foreigner to see it. And the fact that those guys were coming from the States and they grew up with a completely different understanding of what VW is and what Audi is, and there was a whole hippie culture tied into it. And there was a whole West Coast kind of fun culture attached to it. Germans see their past with heavy guilt. So when you tell them, let's take inspiration from the 30s, it's like, are you nuts? Like, why would we do that? Like, please, anything but. So it really takes a person who is not part of the guilt train to reference some of those cars and celebrate them in the way they should be celebrated. Because I don't think the cars are guilty of the dictators, actions. It's wrong.
You're the first person that I've ever heard say that, Sasha. And I think that's really important. And that explains so much, right? I know Mercedes-Benz has this amazing repository of their history that they keep under lock and key, right? And obviously I understand some of it, but it's still your history, right? And I like that point of being an outsider looking in to really understand it. That's fascinating, you know? So you mentioned Volkswagen, Audi TT, some of these other cars. I'm very fascinated to find out what your daily driver is, Sasha. What do you drive? The guy that designs the Nilu 27, what does he drive every day?
Well, I mean, my favorite daily driver that I had to sell when we moved to the States for the second time was the R35 GTR.
Oh,
That was my kind of,
yeah.
yeah, perfect weapon.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I would take kids to school and drive on the German Autobahn and max
Oh,
the car out every single day. So it would literally go 195 miles an hour on the way to school,
I love
and then
it.
onto the off ramp, completely de-restricted. So you brake late, you throw the car in and floor it on the exit, let it slide a little bit. The kids are partying it out, celebrating, and perfectly legal and perfectly
Yeah,
legal.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was an experience. I loved every moment of owning that car. Right
Nice.
now, I drive a 2021 or 22 Land Rover Defender, which I really
Okay.
like. It's a
Yeah,
very
they're
pure,
great.
clean volume. Again,
Yeah.
referencing, by the way, this is another car that the current Audi chief designed back in his
Okay.
Land Rover days. So there's
Makes sense.
some taste of his that I appreciate in that car as well.
Yeah.
And it solves my daily needs, doesn't upset me. I don't feel like I need to scream and yell at it. The
Yeah.
reliability sucks,
Yeah.
but the design
Yeah.
is good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great design. I love what was it, the Heritage Edition with the steel wheels and all that.
Right.
I don't
Super
know which
cool.
one you have, but I love those. They're great. And they drive really well too. You don't always notice until you get out of something else before you realize how
Right.
good those Land Rovers ride. And you mentioned the R35 because I think it was just last week that they announced the last one was rolling off the assembly line, and I
Right.
had to stop and think about how long that thing has been out. I think that was released in was it '05 or '08? '08?
'07 were I
'07.
think the
Okay.
first cars on the road, but the concept was a couple of years before that, and then there was
Okay.
another concept another couple of years before that. So I would say the journey of that R35 project probably goes back to early 2000s.
Really, yeah. And I remember when it came out, this was the death of analog, right? This new digital car. And now we look back and think, all right, this thing's pretty damn analog. This
Pretty damn
is,
analog,
right?
exactly,
Right?
compared to today's cars. Yeah.
It's
It's got a
funny.
ton of character. I don't know,
Oh,
people talk
yeah.
about the fact that it's like driving PlayStation cars, but it really isn't. The thing is tons of
Yeah.
joy and
Yeah.
can really kind of I wouldn't say it punishes you outright because it does catch you if you're too stupid, but there is
Right.
some like snap oversteer moments I had where I was
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
oh, what was that all about?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it's nice. I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding, and that the fact that those cars are holding their value really, really well. You know,
I
as
sold mine for more than I bought it for, which is
really
incredible because a 7-year-old car, fractionally, but it still didn't
sure,
depreciate. Yeah,
sure, like it's a Porsche GT car or something. You know. Okay, so you're in Southern California, LA area, I assume.
indeed.
Yeah. So where are your go-to roads? I know when I'm in town, I always try to do Angeles Crest and Little Big Tahunga or whatever those roads are. They're pretty fantastic, like roller coasters. Where do you go? What are your proving grounds in SoCal?
I don't have any proving grounds because I don't have a car that is worth the proving grounds at the
Okay.
moment. So
Good
I,
answer.
the Land Rover is about to tip over every time I'm on a rental off-ramp. So I don't feel the need to take it anywhere more extreme than that.
Yeah. No,
Um,
for sure.
but obviously some gorgeous roads. I am not a fan of necessarily hooning around
Yeah.
public roads. I am decent as a driver. I'm not great, and I don't want to be a liability on that road, and I
Yeah.
don't want to drag anybody else into any kind of
Yeah.
accidents with me.
Yeah.
So track day, and then some days of preparing with Assetto Corsa and getting a few laps in to
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
all your braking points, and then go to the track semi-educated and do some fun laps on the track. That's how I
Yeah.
normally get my kick.
It's a great point. I mean, one of the reasons I moved to Denver to Colorado here 10 or 11 years ago was for the roads. And I just turned 50 about a week ago. I know you're a few years younger than me, but it's becoming less and less important. I've got nothing to prove, you know. It's just about going out and having a good time. If I was involved with something, even indirectly, that hurt someone or killed, I couldn't live with myself. And so,
No.
it's funny how your priorities change anymore. It's more about the drive and the scenery than it's,
But
absolute
it's
speed.
also outright scary, especially
Yeah.
in modern high performance cars, because
Yeah.
to tap into their actual performance envelope, you need to be so far above and beyond anything that is legal in terms of speed limits. And then you're throwing this car in and you're hoping that it doesn't understeer a fraction more than it normally does and
Yeah.
that you'll bite into that road. But if you don't, then it's a cliff, So,
Yes. Yes.
or coming out of the corner, you're a bit sloppy with your throttle and then the back comes out and there's no room for error. And I don't understand people when I see them driving as recklessly as they do. Are they superhuman in their their abilities, or do they
Yeah.
overestimate their abilities
Yeah.
and then they are risking? Because
Yeah.
I don't like it. I mean, Pikes Peak on YouTube
Yeah.
is more than enough for me to get my palms sweaty and my back sweaty. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, and and that's everyone else too, right? It's the person coming the other direction, or whatever, as you know.
And then there's a motorcycle, leaning into the other direction,
Yes,
so they're
exactly.
across the lane divide, and you're on the limit of your grip. So what are you going to do then?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And you mentioned Pikes Peak. Have you ever been out here for Pikes Peak?
No, love to, would love to.
Okay, if you'd ever want to come out, please do let me know. There's nothing else like it. It's this world class event, but it's still very much sort of a locals only kind of thing. I mean, it's a generational thing, and then the diversity of cars is amazing because you'll see some 1950s pickup truck with 900 horsepower next to some concept vehicle next to someone in a bone stock GT4 or a Corvette or something. It's just a fantastic event, and just to see too the cars slow down the higher it gets, right, with atmospheric power loss. There's nothing
Oh, you
like
you
it.
you you definitely don't need to convince me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make an effort to be there
Please
sooner
let
or
me
later.
know.
Yeah,
Please let me know. I'll show you
I will
around
do,
for
Ryan.
sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think something else too, kids, once you have kids, right, your priorities change. And I know that Nilu, I think is named after your two kids. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
Nika and Lucia and
right on.
IOU. Yeah, yeah.
In the number 27 has special significance for you as well. Would you share
Yeah.
what that is?
Yeah, so that was that magazine clipping that I was talking about a bit earlier that I got my hands on that kind of pivoted me made me fall in love with cars for life. And that was Gilles Villeneuve's number 27 Formula One Ferrari. And when I started watching F1 about a decade later, when they started showing it on Russian television,
Yeah.
I also saw number 27 Ferrari, and I thought that probably was the same driver, but of course I wasn't. It was Jean Easy, and was a Ferrari fan as a kid, and always kind of
Yeah.
drawing cars with number 27 on them. So I figured
Yeah.
it's kind of my lucky mascot, and now we're starting a company and calling it after our kids, my wife and I, and why don't we just put that number 27 as our little mascot? Some companies have a prancing pony, other
Yeah.
companies have a raging bull, and we just have that number 27 that carries our emotional kind of message across.
I love it. I love it. And I'm sure you see 27 everywhere now, right?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Every time I pick up like a number from my table at a restaurant, it's 27. It's okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
that's
that for me it's 22, but it's the same kind of thing. I know it's going to be a good day. Like if I get, 22 on my cup of coffee or something, it's
awesome.
funny how that works. So I want to talk a little bit. My background is actually graphic design, and I know you have a design consultancy as well. And it's not just automotive design; it's Hardline 27, I think, is what it's called, right?
Yes, correct.
And graphic design is part of it, which I think is so cool. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of, I guess, kind of the convergence of design disciplines when it comes to car design and what you do, and I guess what you offer as a firm as well?
Yeah, so I do firmly believe in kind of a holistic approach to design. I really don't like it when things look like different cooks and different departments did,
Yeah.
different things on a car. You want everything, again, sort of referencing back to the tech world. You want the OS to look harmonious with the external shell of the phone, right? You don't want them to be designed by two different philosophies.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a very holistic approach. We have people on board who kind of own certain subjects, but there's also tons of cross-pollination. So it isn't like, they're working in silos. It's really teamwork. Everybody comes together, discusses the briefing, discusses the vision for the product, discusses the vision for the brand, understands how to approach it from an interior designer's perspective, an exterior designer's perspective, brand design. We don't call it graphic design, we call it brand design because
Okay.
a lot of it is corporate identity for us, right? It's coming up with a refreshed set of corporate identity guidelines, be it the logo and the logotype or colors or fonts and typography or bespoke typography as well. But it all has to fit into the kind of the metaphysical cathedral that the company and the brand represents, right? It all has to be part of the decorum of
Yeah.
that faith, like it
Yeah.
really needs
Yeah.
to communicate the vision. And I really appreciate that we're small, lean, agile, and around me I have people who work in the same kind of way that I do, which is very hands-on, not delegating the work, but sitting down doing it ourselves. And Hardline's had 3 years of very successful operation. We had in total recently counted close to 30 clients in the 3 years. So on
It's
average, about 10
fantastic.
clients per year, ranging from top of the line tech companies to OEMs that everybody has heard of, sports car OEMs, and eventually a few very interesting startups that had some very novel ideas they wanted us to help them kind of germinate and illustrate. very rewarding work. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. It allows me to have my hand on the pulse of the industry a little bit because it's
Yeah.
very easy to get sort of sucked into your own daily grind and to lose track of what is everybody else up to. What are things that are happening around me in this industry? And having hardline, obviously the work is NDA, then obviously super secret and all, but
Hmm.
I still am exposed to a lot of it, and I can then kind of contribute to those brands in a meaningful way because I have a landscape in my mind. I
Yeah.
understand the lay of the land a little bit, and
Yeah.
then you can really tailor make your offering. We've done programs that range from outright production cars that are kind of all the way taken into a release of panels and finalizing the design. But we've also done plenty of work that is front-loading work, which is more on the concept stage,
Mm.
coming up with core pillars for the brand and illustrating them into the guiding principles of what their stories should look like. All kinds of work, but very exciting. We're picky. We're kind of
Yeah.
choosy at this point in time. We don't
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
take on any project. For example, I had a dream to do muscle car work for a long time and kind of tap into the American scene. And we have a client in Florida that allowed us to do that. And there's a couple of exciting projects coming out with them soon. So we're picky, but I embrace a lot more. Like Nilu is quite narrowly focused,
Sure.
and hardline is the opposite, and they kind of yin and yang each other in that way. And in my mind,
Yeah.
they create a more, let's say, wholesome experience for me as a
Yeah.
designer and as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it sounds like the perfect balance. It sounds like a dream job, right? I mean, it's something I've learned as a graphic designer is you really can't isolate yourself any longer, right? It has to be that convergence. It has to be a holistic approach, or it just doesn't work. It's just not how the world works anymore, right? Those days are done. What an exciting thing! I mean, it's just then you're not locked into the car thing all the time either, right?
Correct.
It's you've got something else going on. But back to the car because I think you've got a production schedule now, right? I
Right.
think first 15 cars are track only, coming out next year, 26.
Well, we will make some announcements soon,
Okay.
but according to our engineering team, it might not be that 15 track cars are first. It might be that we
Okay.
are slotting them into the production run here and there. So we're still working on the details of that. There is logistics, there is supply chain, there is, let's say, the business side of things at play here as well. But yeah, we are committed to 15 strictly speaking, road legal units and 54
Okay.
homologated
Right.
road legal cars here.
Cool, cool, cool. And I guess your potential customer, what makes a Nilu customer different, say, than someone who will just, at least theoretically, go into a Ferrari dealership and drop similar coin on a Daytona SP3, right? How is your prospective customer different?
Well, I don't actually think that they are, because most of our customers are pretty big connoisseurs and collectors
Mm.
of that type of vehicle. So for some of them, it's a first purchase. We actually have concluded a sale with one such customer recently, very recently, the first time hypercar buyer.
Yeah,
That's very exciting for us. But most of them are seasoned
yeah,
hypercar
yeah,
collectors, and they really have a pretty well-trained eye and expectation level, and they kind of know the experience all too well. So
yeah,
I do think that there's a general shift happening at the moment where our message lands really well with our prospective customers. The message of back to the roots, the message
mm-hmm,
of decomplexing the vehicle, less reliance on electronics,
mm-hmm,
putting
mm-hmm.
the driver back in the driver's seat. Like you earlier, Ryan started with listing out the specs of the Nilu. We don't headline with that stuff on
Yeah,
purpose. I mean, for me, the headline is the driver is in the driver's seat,
yeah,
and what you as a driver can get out of it. If it's a sub 3 second
yeah,
0 to 100 kilometer acceleration, I'll applaud you for doing that. But that just means that you found the perfect day, the perfect road condition, and you timed your shifts perfectly, and you worked that clutch and you worked that throttle pedal, and it's more of your accomplishment. I mean, obviously it's in the car can pull it off, but it won't do much to help you either. So that headline spec isn't something that we advertise on our front
yeah,
page because it's up to the driver. That's what we want to talk about. And in that sense, it's finding a lot of traction and a great reception from the customer community because
yeah,
they are tired of these soulless car as an appliance, car as a tech gadget approach that has even trickled over to hypercar world from the Teslas and the Lucids of this world. It has also trickled into the hypercar world now. and the customer doesn't want much of that in the future, perfectly coinciding with my own dream and my own ambition. I've always wanted to do just that, and all of a sudden the market seems very ripe for it.
Can we talk a little bit about Car Week? Because I think for someone like me, or for the average person that comes to Car Week, it's just kind of fun. It's it's a show. But for someone like you, you're working. You're actually selling cars, right? Gordon Murray or a singer, they're selling cars. So, what's your take on Car Week from your perspective? I mean, you're selling cars, right?
Of course we are. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's what we're here for. We're trying to build a successful company. We're early days still, but that's what we're doing. And the experience is you just can't miss Car Week. You cannot not go.
yeah, yeah.
It's such an incredible melting pot gathering of both the industry and the clientele and the media. So if you're not there, you're missing out on effectively the highlight of the year. It's intense. It's tiring. It's actually
Hmm.
quite grueling, like the
Hmm.
schedule there, and
Hmm.
you're kind of uh, every day wondering how much can I bear this for, but it's a must.
Yeah,
You really
yeah.
can't not go. So what are the highlights? Well, for me, first of all, my wife and I, we went for the first time to Monterey for Car Week when we were students, and we just went in like
Oh wow.
rented a car, got a few of our friends together, went there without any tickets to anything, and just kind of BS'd our way into most events and climbed under the fence for the others and cheated our way for the rest. And that was our first experience in bumping into some,
I
I
love
don't
it.
know, legendary designers there saying, "Hi, I'm Sasha," and like, "Can I have your autograph?" basically. So now you go in
Yeah,
there and it's a whole different experience. Last year we presented our
yeah,
car at the awards ramp in Pebble Beach, and I'm just standing there pinching myself, thinking, "Holy crap!" Like I was here as a kid, just fighting for an autograph. I was here as a designer for all these amazing companies, presenting their output or being part of the crew with the car there. Some cases with Koenigsegg, for example, on the stage presenting
yeah,
as well. But here I am with my own creation, something that's lived in my mind for such a long time. And here we are. It's a small team, tiny team. It's just my wife, myself, and a couple of other people. And we have to do everything from loading, unloading, to repairing, to putting up beach flags and looking for sandbags and repainting the scratched paint on the floor. But like all that stuff we have to do. But what a reward! And you stand there at this awards ramp, and I really wonder, did I just present my car to the world here? Like that's just you can't.
I can't imagine what that must feel like. I just that you've come full circle like that. That you're the guy now, signing autographs. Much must just be
It's
the
surreal. But
coolest
I
feeling
try to
ever.
not
That's
forget. Well, I don't
fantastic.
forget the humble beginnings, and I think that most of those people, approaching now with a comment or a request for an autograph or a picture, they're slated to do some great things in their life. So you have to kind of, yeah, you obviously have to treat everybody with
Yeah,
respect and with dignity. But these people show their passion; they wear it on their sleeve, so they'll do great things. I have no doubt.
yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. Can I ask what were some of the automotive highlights for you at Car Week this year? Some of the work of others that you thought was pretty great?
I think one car really stole the show, and it was the S1 LM, the LM McLaren F1 remake that Gordon Murray's
Yeah,
team pulled off. I thought that looked fabulous and really pretty, and
yeah,
I really enjoyed kind of I celebrated that result together with a couple of people I know from that project. So it's a very impressive
neat.
car. It also shows to me that sometimes running after new isn't necessary. We're not in we have reached peak car. We're not in a
Yeah,
situation where we're looking for peak car. We have reached it. So the innovation for me at this point in time is kind of a lot of the times just watering down what the peak car should be as far as sports cars are concerned. And that they are kind of looking back at history and wondering, did we throw the baby out with the water? Like, no, we should really celebrate, the good that there was in this beautiful McLaren F1 is obviously a legendary car, so that they recreated it with such respect and with such quality, I find very
yeah,
attractive. I did similar well, we did similar at Koenigsegg with CC850, and that was a dream
mhm,
project for me as well to kind of celebrate the brand's true design kind of beginnings and then in this even more mature and refined way. Um, People have an issue with retro. They always say, "How about that's retro?" But so what's wrong with that? If it was good, why throw it away?
mhm,
Is
yeah,
everything that is
yeah,
tomorrow better than everything that was yesterday? Is that like always the case? I'm not so sure about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I love the CC 850 because of that, right? Because it pays, tribute, right? what came before it, and it's done so well.
Thank
So,
you.
and what about the GMA, the 33 and the 50? What are your thoughts on this? Because in a lot of ways, they're probably some of the closest analogs, right, to the Nilu 27.
So, like, I absolutely love them as far as the concept is concerned. I think Gordon's
Mm-hmm.
concept is incredible, and he doesn't need my approval. We all know that he's a legendary name and knows his stuff.
Sure. It's
And the engine drivetrain combination is wonderful. I love the kind of scaled
yeah,
down 12-cylinder, lightweight revs, to infinity. Wonderful. Packaging is great, tight, tiny
yeah,
packages that are cocooning and just right for the driver. Great view angles. On the exterior design side for both cars, underbaked. I think the
oh,
LM really sets a standard for Gordon Murray. I
yeah,
didn't quite like the both exteriors. I felt they were a bit too tame. I don't think that every car needs to scream that it wants to burn your village. Not at all. But they weren't executed to their fullest potential. There are areas which are a bit iffy, like that rear end for me was a bit iffy on the 250.
sure,
Narrow, tall, not doing itself any
yeah,
favors with the way the graphics were applied, emphasizing height instead of width in some cases. But again,
yeah,
from everybody else out there, I think these are very compelling products. I mean, analog, manual, um, perfect sound, wonderful packaging, and now with the new iteration of cars, I think they've also unlocked the finesse and the design side as well.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's what's so great about your car. It's got a presence, right, that even those two wonderful cars don't have. And I think for someone my age, it presses the right buttons, right? It gets me excited, right? You walk around and every angle is a good one. It's an event, right? I can't imagine what it's like to drive, but just even looking at it is an event. It's just
Well, thanks for
special.
saying
And
that.
as I
Means a lot,
alluded to at the
Ryan.
beginning, it's such a cool thing. And again, it must feel so amazing to know that that's yours, that that's your baby. But I know no small amount of hard work, has gone behind all this. And so
No,
congratulations on something pretty wonderful.
thank you very much. It is a huge challenge. It's the challenge of our lives
Yeah.
to succeed, but we are doing everything right, and we're supported by a very passionate group of people around us, and that group is growing, and there will be some very important announcements coming up soon about the progress that we've made in the last year. So epic journey. Really loved every moment of it so far, and then we're still at the beginning. I'm 42 now, but it still feels like the mountain is there for me to climb, even after all the years and all the other smaller mountains that were successfully navigated. There's still a big one in front.
Where do we find you, your cars, your consultancy online, Sasha?
Well, cars, Nilu27.com, consultancy, hardline27.com. Both are pretty active on Instagram. Look up Hardline27 official or Nilu27 official for our Instagram accounts. I also have a private Instagram account, Sasha Selipanov, that I'm sometimes active on, and they do all have very different narratives to tell. So,
Mhm.
speaking to you right now, I'm saying things also as a private person, not only as a
Sure.
representative of Nilu or Hardline, but there's some split in the way the narratives are handled there.
Cool. Cool.
Excited to see new
I
followers. Yeah, always.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and you're a great follow, and all the pages are fantastic follows as well. One last question for you: you're a music fan, are you not?
Yeah, big time.
I've seen you in some concert T-shirts and
Yes,
stuff.
always,
So
always.
what are you listening to when you're designing? What are you putting on?
So that was actually one of the very formative things in my life and in my career from the early days. My mom used to challenge my brother, and my brother is actually a composer and a serious kind of
Oh,
musician
really?
now. But as we were kids, she would always challenge us to close our eyes and imagine a visual narrative for any piece of music that she would play. And then she would stop the music and have us retell what we imagined. So for me, this connection between visual and oral is actually very strong. So I do find the right subgenre of metal for each project
Okay, right on.
that I can
I love it.
get the right vibes from. But I mean, we can laugh about it
Yeah.
because metal maybe to some people is very kind of homogenous in a way, but it really isn't, because there are things that are incredibly slow paced, landscapey, and very
Hmm.
abstract, and there are things that are fast paced, brutal, and there are things that are very mathematically driven with complex time signatures and polyrhythms
Hmm.
and then weird kind of shifts, and then there are other things that are monumental and huge. So depending on the project, you really can find the right kind of soundscape that puts your mind, in the mode that creates visual forms and language that coincides with the music that was originally picked out to guide you towards a result for that particular project. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, Sasha Selipanov, I thank you for joining us on That Car Show today. We cannot wait to see what's next. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Ryan. It was a pleasure. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. And thank you to all the listeners.
likewise.